Hey, I'm Hunt, and this is Hunt on LSU, your channel for LSU Fighting Tiger football talk. Enjoy the video. We want you to leave a comment below, hit that like button, and subscribe right below the video. Enjoy. We'll talk some NFL draft here, and not the one that we just had, the one that comes up next year is what we're talking about. ESPN wrote a story, Matt Miller, who's a draft analyst, broke down the top 2 projected draft picks at every position. So for quarterback, they're looking at Drake May and Caleb Williams. I don't really care to talk about that one. At running back, it's Braylon Allen from Wisconsin and Travion Henderson, who's a stud at Ohio State. Both wide receivers are from Ohio State, and Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. But as you start to move down, there's a little bit of flavor that we care a little bit more about. One of those is at edge rusher. Top 2 edge rushers projected in next year's draft. Dallas Turner from Alabama, who I'm sure you're familiar with, but the other is Jared Verse of Florida State. I will be quite honest with you. He makes me a little nervous for Labor Day. Jared Verse took up residence in LSU's backfield last year in the Superdome. Now, those were different tackles and a little bit different LSU program at that point than we'll see coming up here in a couple of months. But Verse is a monster. And you talk about a guy that is going to be very, very wealthy in next year's draft and could have been very wealthy in this past draft. He's your guy. As the story says, he could have been a top 20 pick in this draft. In one season as a starter, he had 9 sacks and 35 pressures. He's got a first step that offensive tackles can't figure out, and he attacks each snap with a plan. So they give the edge to Dallas Turner in this piece, but Jared Verse of Florida State getting strong consideration, and LSU is going to have to contend with them. Thankfully, now I think for LSU, I can come into this season, in this opening game, feeling like the offensive tackles are a strength of the team. I couldn't have done that this time last year. You had question marks. But now you feel like you've got 2 guys with a year under their belt that should be able to hold up. And we'll get a big test right out of the chute with Jared Verse. But there's more LSU flavor here, and this is actual LSU flavor for defensive tackle. Top 2 draftable defensive tackles entering this college football season: Leonard Taylor from Miami and Maason Smith of LSU. The blurb on Smith says he had 4 sacks in 9 games in 2021, but missed all but 1 quarter of the 2022 season with a torn ACL. Former 5-star recruit, has huge potential that scouts are excited to see on the field. Taylor, like Smith, was a top prep recruit. So this is high praise for Maason Smith. To have him as a top 2 draftable defensive tackle in all of college football, coming off a year where he essentially didn't play, is really, really high praise. I will be quite honest with you. This now being 2 years moving forward, I don't remember huge plays from Maason Smith in his freshman year. He had 4 sacks. I couldn't tell you about any of them. Like, I could go back and look at the statistics. I could go back and look at the highlights, and we'll do that when it becomes football time and we've got to really lock in. But I'm curious at how they arrived at this decision that he's in the top 2, because basically it's all on hype. And there's no doubt that Maason Smith deserves some hype. He was a top 25 player in the country coming out of high school. He's 6'6", and he doesn't have a ton of body fat. And if you listen to folks over at LSU, they would tell you that they had a real difficult time blocking Maason Smith in camp last year. There every once in a while are some guys that kind of disrupt practice. You can't really get things done properly because you can't block them. And apparently Maason Smith was that guy. And I've heard Brian Kelly talk about Maason Smith. And I've heard him kind of break things down very simply for us who are not as inclined in X's and O's in football. And I tell you that twice a week during football season. You're not listening to me for a lot of A-gap pressers and cowboy blitzes, and that's not in my bag. I got to get guess for that. I got to go to Hester for that. I'm not as X's and O's savvy in football. But Brian Kelly was talking about this in the spring with Maason Smith, and he said, look, teams could really shade our edges last year for Ojulari and Gay, and they could really pay attention to them. And Jaquelin Roy had a nice, solid year, and Mekhi Wingo had a really strong year, but teams felt like they needed to handle us on the edge first and foremost, so we couldn't be so disruptive. If you try to do that next year, Maason Smith is going to eat you alive, basically, is me paraphrasing the quote. Said, you're going to have to start your protection on the inside with 0. Because if you don't, and you leave centers on an island with that guy, you're in big trouble. So that's easy for me to understand just based on numbers and philosophies. I couldn't tell you when you shade the pressure or what this protection's called versus what that one's called, or that's all over my head. But I understand where your emphasis needs to be and how that changes the way you run your offense, and the fact that just based on numbers, if you've got to occupy multiple people with Maason Smith, it leaves the numbers on the edges a little bit more exposed for Matt House to get creative and for the guys on the edges to make some things happen. And that's a really fun way to play defense. And Maason Smith gives you a numbers advantage. Oh, by the way, I should add that in this piece, Maason Smith gets the nod in this comparison with Miami's Leonard Taylor. Said the pressure is going to be on both to put together solid seasons and realize their potential, but the 20-year-old Smith is a favorite of scouts. As long as his knees recovered nearly 1 year after the injury, he could be a top 10 player. He shows good bend, length, and quickness on tape. So there is some tape from his freshman year. He did play, just wasn't a huge piece to that team. He's going to be a huge piece to this team. And man, what a shot of life that would give him, the team, the fans that travel, if early in the game against Florida State, if Maason Smith could break through and make a big play on Jordan Travis. That pass rusher on the interior is a rarity. Dorsey could do it, but most of the time, your interior guys are there to kind of occupy blockers. If Smith can be a difference maker and a guy who gets into the backfield and makes a bunch of plays, when you pair him with Mekhi Wingo, they could be trouble. And that's a really good place to start your defense. You want to start on the inside, build out. Maason Smith's that guy. I'm just a little bit surprised, personally, that ESPN would have him in this conversation, having not really done a ton in 2 years of college. But it's exciting, and I like it. And if scouts like it, I'm in. Big Maason Smith thought us to be the #1 draftable defensive tackle entering this season of college football. He's the only guy from LSU that is in this list. I thought that was interesting. Ohio State's just got a ton of them, and really Alabama is not loaded down. They got Kool-Aid McKinstry at cornerback. That's one. They've got Dallas Turner at edge rusher. That's 2. And Bama not represented anywhere else here. So, again, it just lends more credence. I think in 2 weeks when we go to Nashville, well, I'm not going to Nashville, when the station goes to Nashville, I think that you're going to see the media pick LSU to win the SEC West. It's just not something we see very often, especially when things are in Birmingham. But I think that's going to be the case. There just doesn't seem to be quite as much buzz around Alabama. Who's the quarterback? Where are the stars? Who are the wide receivers? It doesn't quite feel like it has in years past. Would it shock me at all if they went 15-0, won the national championship? No. But you got to admit that it feels a little different this time of year than it usually does surrounding Alabama. So cool honor there for Maason Smith. A little off-season head nod to the big fella in the middle of LSU's defense. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.